Welcome, everyone. My name is Kevin Bolger. I'm with the Tennessee Urban Forestry Council. If you're familiar with this webinar, you might be wondering, where's Neil Letson? Neil leads our webinar series. He's done a wonderful job. He's a little sick this week, so I'm stepping in for him. And he's a member and volunteer with TUFC. Our webinar is brought to you by TUFC as well as the University of Tennessee School of Natural Resources. And the purpose of our webinar is to provide topics and speakers that can help you build resilient urban forest where you live and work. Today, we have a really cool topic going beyond the urban forest and observing seasonal changes in both plants and animals, featuring Samantha Brewer, the Volunteer Engagement Coordinator with the USA National Phenology Network. I'm going to pass it on to Katie real quick. The communication specialist from the University of Tennessee provides a ton of tech support and behind the scenes, it really helps this webinar series run. She just has a few housekeeping details to run through before we start the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Just a few housekeeping notes. If you are seeking CEUs from the International Society of Arboriculture, please make sure you registered and you paid the $10 fee. And if you have a moment, please make sure that your full name is showing to get credit. You can do that by going to participants and finding your name and just entering the new screen name. And please use the name that you registered with. This helps us identify who we need to send as far as the attendance report, the names that we need to send to ISA for those CEUs. If you are not seeking CEUs, or if you are a Tennessee Urban Forestry Council member, you do not have to worry about the $10 fee. But again, if you are seeking those CEUs, please change your screen name and take this time to do that. And also throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, please enter them in the chat and we will have a few minutes at the end to answer those questions. And Kevin, I think that's everything.
Okay, great. Thank you, Katie. And we love hearing where everyone's from. So I'm in Nashville, Katie's in Knoxville, Tennessee. We know a lot of you are both within the state and from elsewhere in the country, perhaps even outside the country. So feel free to share that in the chat. It's always cool to see. Samantha is in Tucson, Arizona. And we thought it was getting a little hot here. We were talking before this here in Tennessee unseasonably in April, but she was sharing how hot it's already getting down there. But so it's getting warm everywhere. Samantha, I'll pass it on to you, and we'll see you at the end for a Q&A.
All right, thank you guys so much for having me. My name is Samantha Brewer, and I am the Volunteer Engagement Coordinator for the USA National Phenology Network. Whenever I have to write my job title down on forms, like I have to write really, really tiny, but that's all right because I love what I do. I love volunteer engagement, and I love teaching people all across the country how to observe seasonal changes in plants and animals, document it, involve their communities, bring people together, and just find different ways to observe and connect with nature. A little bit about myself. I have been an educator in like biology and ecology and phenology and formal and informal education for about, about 20 years now. Is that right? No, it's not right. It's about 15 years now. Whew. All right, so about 15 years now. And I have taught grades all the way from preschool to folks who've been retired in all sorts of different systems. So I kind of like to have a lot of engagement. So a lot of webinars that I attend, right, is you watch the webinars and you do them, but mine are going to be pretty heavy in participation. So at the bottom, I'm glad that they had you guys practice where you're all joining us from in the chat. Like he said, I'm in Tucson, Arizona. And a lot of you guys are from Tennessee, which is wonderful. I think I see Illinois there, so that's fantastic. And Arkansas. Hey, I like that. All right. Once again, I'm from Tucson, Arizona. And 4 years ago, I didn't even know what phenology was. And so being able to teach people across the country about phenology and how to record phenological data is really exciting. Georgia, Virginia. Oh, there we go. Good. You guys found the comment thing. Good. Find the comment thing now. If you haven't put in where you're from yet, now is a perfect opportunity to do so. Is a perfect opportunity to do so because you're going to be participating in this. All right, and I'm going to start off with my own question is, yep, it is springtime, right? And now it's been a little bit, spring's kind of happened for a while, but we're still in spring. And spring's been a little weird this year for a lot of us, but go ahead and put in the chat, what does spring even mean to you, right? So if you're right, we're in the dredges of winter, and every time we're like in a season, we're just like ready for the next season, right? So what gets you like, I am ready for spring? And this doesn't have to be tree related. It doesn't have to be nature related. It could be like barbecue related. But what is spring to each of you? So what's your spring thing? For me here in Tucson, it's actually when the reptiles start coming out because all of our reptiles go dormant over the winter time. It's called brumation. But once it starts getting warmer, you see a few more lizards out. The local news posts are kind of like, watch out for snakes because it's rattlesnake season. And it generally is rattlesnake season. Like we do actually have to, like even in town, we have to be careful of rattlesnakes. But spring is the herb time for me. And I'm a bird person. New growth, gardening. Ooh, someone from Nevada, welcome. Yes, it's that time you start getting ready for planting. Some of you may have pollinator gardens or vegetable gardens. I love the new spring growth on trees, and especially when it's just like that kind of awkward, like little bit of green at the end of the buds of the trees, and then it gets like bright, bright green. It's so fun. I just love it. Oh, baseball. Yes, baseball opening day. Green up, spring flowers, trees blooming, longer days. I feel that too. I do have that awkward, like when I take my kids to school and there's like a brief moment where like the time I take my kids to school, like the sun is right in my eyes, but we're past that now. So that's really good. But longer days are just lovely. All right. So our plan today, we're going to talk about phenology today. And phenology, some of you guys, ooh, bloodroot. Oh my gosh. Okay, good. I'm getting specific flowers now. We're going to talk about what phenology is. Some of you guys might already know what phenology is, right? Some of you have been like, oh, I do phenology all the time. Some of you will have never heard of phenology before, right? And so if you are super familiar with phenology, you're like, I've done phenology 1,000 times, bear with me, we're going to do it together again. But if this is new to you, I really love teaching about phenology because phenology is a study that like whenever I go out to do presentations or if I'm out at a conference or if I'm doing these webinars, most people don't know what phenology is. But once you actually figure out what it is, it turns out like pretty much everybody does know what phenology is. They just don't have the word. We're going to talk about phenophases. We're also going to talk a little bit about arborists or studying trees and how you guys can incorporate phenology into your programs. We're going to talk about Nature's Notebook. I'm part of the USA National Phenology Network, and specifically we're going to talk about Nature's Notebook, which is our citizen science program that individuals and organizations can use to document seasonal changes in phenology. And it's interactive, so we're gonna practice how to collect phenology data with Nature's Notebook as well. So what is phenology, right? I always like to start out, what is phenology? And then I like to start with the Greek word pheno, meaning to bring, spring to light, make appear, right? Because ology is always the study of, right? You have biology, which is the study of living things, right? You have ecology, which is the study of living things and the habitat or the area in which they live, right? You have zoology, which is the study of animals. And so pheno is actually a Greek word, Greek root meaning to spring or to make light or to appear, which to me still doesn't quite explain what phenology is. So in my environmental educator terms, it's the study of the cyclical life cycles of plants and animals. So what phenology is every year, right? The seasons change. You go from spring, summer, fall, winter, It all has to do with Earth's axial tilt and our place in the universe and the sun and you know, and all that. But when you look at the timing of when do those leaves break out, or when do caterpillars first start hatching, or when do birds first migrate north, you can look at those patterns and you can learn more about ecosystems. You can learn more about climate and climate change. And you can use that information from what we learn to manage urban forestry landscapes or manage parks or manage invasive species. So the more we learn about climate, when plants and animals go through their life stages, and what that means, we can make more informed decisions about how to manage our areas. And I like to start with a land acknowledgement as well. Usually I specifically acknowledge the peoples of Tucson, Arizona, or who occupy, or the peoples who are indigenous to Tucson and Arizona, but I get to do these talks all across the country, so I do like to acknowledge like the lands, especially, man, we've got people from all over the country right now, right? So just recognizing the indigenous lands in which we reside, and being aware that what a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is a very Western view of phenology and a very Western view of seasonal changes with plants and animals, and even how it's documented. But I want to acknowledge that all the peoples who have been on this land for you know, time, I like to say thousands of years, but you know, longer than we often recognize, the phenology has been their livelihood, right? Connecting with nature, being aware of seasonal timings of plants and animals. That's how humans have survived and connected with this land for as long as there's been people. So what I'm going to talk about is a very Western view, but I want to acknowledge the indigenous cultures and indigenous views of phenology are just much more closely tied connected and just as valid and valuable as the data that I'm going to be talking about today. So phenology is really wonderful. I love studying phenology. I love teaching people about phenology because it's such a great way to study how climate change affects plants, how climate change affects animals, how climate change affects their interactions, and how it affects ecosystems. Because when we think about spring, right, and when you think about bud burst, or when you think about those flowers blooming, right, the flowers aren't sitting here like, oh, today is March, you know, whatever, March 21st. I don't remember which day it was this year, right? It's the first day of spring, so now it's time to put up my leaves. Like, plants don't work that way, right? Plants and animals are these living things, and they're in touch with their environment, and they're adapted to their environment, and they are going to change through the year based on what's going on in their environment and how their cells and how their processes are affected by their surroundings, right? So with plants, a lot of you guys are arborists, so many of you are familiar with growing degree days, right? So like how many days it was a specific temperature for plants to know that it's safe to leaf out, right? Because those brand new leaves are very, very delicate and very fragile, right? They're just brand new little baby leaves, right? So the plants want to know, plants are monitoring, you know, essentially the temperature and the climate around them so that they know it's safe to leaf out or that it's safe to bloom, right? Monarchs will know when it's time to lay their eggs and when to start migrating, right? Birds, for example, many birds when they migrate, they don't migrate at a time of peak caterpillar availability, right? They migrate at a time where they can find a mate and build their nest and lay their eggs and incubate their eggs so that when their babies are ready to have their little faces stuffed with caterpillars, that's when there's going to be peak caterpillar season. So why phenology is really important is climate change is a thing, right? And we are experiencing it, right? We were talking earlier about how warm it's getting right now, how climate change has been affecting us and our communities, and how it's been affecting the plants and animals around us. And when you're able to monitor what you're seeing in those seasonal changes of plants and animals, you can see how climate change is affecting those species and those interactions. there's many different ways that we can apply it, right? It's not just we're going outside and we're looking at leaves, right? There's many different ways that you can apply phenology, right? So, and I'm going to talk about some of those today, but you can think about looking at nectar availability for pollinators, right? If you're building a pollinator garden, maybe you're in a place where you want to make sure that there's nectar available for pollinators year round, right? And the way you know if nectar is available is if there's an open flower. If you don't have open flower, you don't have nectar for pollinators, right? So knowing the timing of different kinds of plants can affect what plants you want to plant in your pollinator garden, so that you can plan for what nectar collecting animals are around and what you want to have available for them. Wildflower management, right? Looking at dry conditions, looking at when are plants going to be drier, when are they going to be greener. This plant in the corner right here, this is called buffalo grass. Here in Tucson, is a scourge in Tucson. It's a really, really nasty invasive grass that has been really, really bad for our desert ecosystems, mostly due to the way it reacts to fire. And so we need to know when to spray the buffalo grass, right? So if you spray the buffalo grass when it's already seeded, it's like, well, it's already seeded, right? Those seeds are in the ground, you've kind of missed your mark. If you spray the buffalo grass too early, then it's kind of dry and dormant, and it doesn't actually affect the plant. But we can look at when it's raining, and we actually have a system, or we have models to show, okay, this is when it's rained in your area. You'll get an email for when in 2 weeks it's going to be the optimal time to treat your buffalo grass. Right? Agriculture, looking at when you're collecting seeds, when you're planting plants, how climate change is affecting phenology of agricultural crops. Allergies. Yesterday, my daughter and I took our first allergy meds of the season because we're like, why am I feeling so disgusting? That's because it's allergy season, right? But if you have earlier springs and longer springs, it's going to affect when plants are pollinating and when you need to prepare for allergies. And then insect species, right? It's not just the phenology of plants, but the phenology of insect species, right? When it gets certain temperatures, you have pest insects that may be emerging, and when's the best time to be treating for those insects. All right, so you guys are all arborists. Now you've listened to me talk for a few minutes. So for whatever organization or you as an individual, what are ways that you document seasonal changes? And once again, it may be that you're gardening with your calendar, or it may be something that you plan for planting seeds, or maybe you are a volunteer engagement coordinator and you're getting ready to bring out your volunteers to do some landscaping work. But what are ways that you document seasonal changes, right? I already did what does spring mean to you, but what are ways that you kind of pay attention to the seasons and are managing seasonal changes where you work or in your spare time? Oh, soil temperature and rain amounts. Yeah, this is fun. It's fun when there's scientists because I get like totally different answers than when I'm doing it for like, hey, I have no idea what phenology is, right? Soil temperature and rain amount, that's a great way to document how the seasons are changing and what's going on with the seasons. Oh, perennials breaking through the mulch, absolutely, right? You're looking for when those new plants are breaking through. Some of you may in Tucson we have like kind of fun bedding, like not actual bedding, but like monsoon pools of like when's the first monsoon rain gonna come, right? Like people will look at like the climate data and make their guesses for when the monsoons are gonna start. Nighttime temperatures, right? Some people are looking at daytime temperatures, some of you are looking at nighttime temperatures. That's excellent, right? So there's different ways to document how the seasons change and how they affect the plants and animals in your area. But phenology can be another really useful way of documenting seasonal changes and documenting when to plan for things in your area, right? Some organizations such as the Minnesota Phenology Network, they actually track leaf fall so that they can look at improving water quality, right? Because when you have falling leaves, it affects nutrients in waterways. And so they can track leaf fall to manage, like, what do we need to do to manage our water systems to improve our water quality. Some organizations will, like, oh, I mentioned the buffalo grass already, right? But it's not just springtime that we can monitor. We can also monitor what's going on in the fall, right? So managers and arborists may be interested in fall leaf phenology, or when do you need to bring out, when is it time to start hiring for fall cleanup? Species selection also, right? So especially when you're thinking about urban forestry applications, part of urban forestry is what species are we planting and what species are we managing, right? Looking at phenology can actually be really important for that, right? When are different plants leafing out? When do you want to have shade trees? Or when do you want to have flowering plants? Or what fruit trees do you want to have and in what locations, right? So being able to look at, if I'm planting trees in an area, or if, once again, pollinator garden, right? If I want to manage for monarch butterflies, if I want to create habitat for monarch butterflies, what species do I want to plant? Where do I want to plant them? So that you're meeting your goals of what you want to achieve. And it's not just like, it's not just looking at leaves, right? But this is, once again, we need data, right? We don't want to just say like, oh, you know, the red maples should be leafing around this time. Maybe want to plant these, right? We need data in order to make these decisions, right? And so what's great about phenology, and what's great about collecting data with phenology and using data with phenology, is you can actually see what's on the ground and what are people noticing, and how can we actually use this to see if there's been shifts in phenology, if we want to see when our plant's going to be ripening, if we need to do seed collection, or if we need to do seed cleanup, or if we need to do any of those other management, what is actually happening where we are. Because what's happening in Tucson is very different than what's happening in Tennessee, which is very different what's happening in Nevada, right? So data collected with the USA National Phenology Network, all the data that is collected is available to everybody. It's all freely available, and you can actually look at, in my area, what are people noticing that the plants are doing, so that we can use this to make our management decisions. Kent, Washington, my mom lives in Covington. I grew up in Covington, by the way. So Scott, I'm really glad you mentioned that, because that's like right next to my home. I actually know Kent. All right, and also increasing baseline information, right? Increasing awareness. So sometimes, especially when you're thinking about forestry management, or you're thinking about environmental education, or you're thinking about parks and recreation, right? You need community involvement, right? You want, if people are going to be questioning, like, why'd you plant this tree here? You need to be able to communicate them. Why are we planting this tree here? What are we doing here? Why is this plant important? This is a desert tree. This is a desert willow. It's a native tree here in Tucson, and it's a beautiful tree. It's actually, there's multiple of them at my kids' elementary and middle schools. They have tons of desert willow. And she's like, why do we have these desert willow? Why are they here? Why are they important? Why do we want to plant these native trees? And what do they provide to our ecosystems? So being able to involve your community about why native species are important, why we want to bring the plants we're doing, why we want to do these projects, teaching them about phenology, because phenology, once again, it's a study that no one ever knows what phenology is. But when you're connecting with your communities, and when you're talking to your communities about what you're doing, when you're talking about what do you notice in spring, what do you notice in summer and fall, that's something that's so universal for humanity, is making those connections. So being able to teach them about why you're doing what you're doing and why it's important and why it's good for them. So desert willow, once again, sometimes with phenology, you're just like, I have no idea what the desert willow's doing. Like, why are we doing the desert willows? When are they flowering? We might not know that, right? So some organizations will collect phenology data just to be like, we have no idea what the species is doing, and we need to find out. So they can collect those data on when is it leafing, when is it flowering, when is it fruiting, so that we can plan for that. What this calendar here shows Also is here we have the months at the bottom, right? January, February, March, April, May. And what the colored spaces are is when different phases or when different life cycles of the plant are occurring, right? So like up here with your desert willow, this is when people were reporting young leaves. In this case, for this 2014 year, they hadn't collected the data yet, so we didn't see where they collected the data yet, but here's where they saw fruits and ripe fruits for desert willow. But you can look at it year after year after year. So the year before, though, in 2013, you can see the young leaves in the desert willow were leafing out a little bit earlier than they were in 2013, and even then a little bit earlier than they were in 2012. Because if you have only 1 year of phenology data, right? Let's say I was just collecting data in 2014, I wouldn't know. I would say like, oh, great, it started at the beginning of March, right? Is when they're leafing out. But is that common? Is that typical? Are there shifts? So when you can get year after year of phenology data, you can tie it to climate data, and you can see, yep, when are they actually leafing out? What does it have to do with rainfall? What are the growing degree days that have occurred beforehand? And so when can we plan for managing these plants? But also increasing the awareness, it's not just the plants, right? It's the animal communities around them, right? Maybe, I don't know if you guys, you can put that in the chat, yes or no. Some of you may have dealt with these sphinx moth caterpillars, right? They're like the giant bright green ones. They're often called like tomato caterpillars or tobacco caterpillars, right? Because they just love tomato plants. We see them on our desert willows all the time. But different communities and trophic species, right? What's your predator prey communities look like? What food's available for the birds? What food's available for other animals? So looking at the trees can also tell us more about what's going on with the animals as well. And often when you're interacting with your communities and interacting with your people, when you're trying to communicate, like, look at this super important plant, a lot of times people are like, oh, that's cool. Like to us, we're like, oh my gosh, plants are freaking awesome. But telling community members or teaching community members about why plants are awesome, often connecting the animals is a really good way to make that connection of like, oh yeah, like I understand animals. Once people are paying attention to the animals, it gets real easy to pay attention to plants. What is also great for involving your community though, like let's say you want to involve your community in monitoring, right, the trees that are at your parks, right? Maybe you have beetle outbreaks, or maybe spotted lanternflies, right, are starting to come, and you want to get that community involvement and that citizen science involvement. If you have members of your community that are monitoring your plants through time, those people are they're gonna get connected to the plants, right? They're like, oh, your plants do have personalities. Here's what I'm noticing. Like, wait, now it's looking really sick. Maybe it's leafing out later than usual, or maybe they start noticing specific pest insect species that you're trying to manage for. If you do have a moment, I will throw this out here too. I won't spend a ton of time on this, but I want you to know that this resource is available. But you can take your phone and you can get the camera going. If you check out that QR code, by bringing up your camera, it'll have you click the QR code, and oh, it should, yeah, there it is. It will take you to our Pheno forecast page. If you do have some species such as emerald ash borers or apple maggots or Asian longhorn beetles or even tank caterpillars, that is an invasive species that you want to manage for, you can actually sign up for notifications for some of our forecasts, where we do look at those growing degree days. We look at, and we can actually send you an email of, hey, these guys will start, adults will start emerging soon, or caterpillars will start emerging soon. Based on generally the phenophases that you want to manage for, you can actually get a notification for, as climate's changing and as we're getting these weird seasons, what actual pests, how you can manage your pests too. Also, it's really great. Phenology is great for supporting professional development, right? Increases, right? When you are paying attention, if you're going out and monitoring trees and looking at how they're changing through the season and all those little changes they make, It helps you get to know your trees, right? You're getting to know the biology of them, the seasonal phases, when they're happening, how long they're happening, and how they look for various species too. When I first started with phenology, I was a bird biologist is how I was trained. And I took a couple botany courses because, birds live in plants and some birds eat plants. And so we've got to know a little bit about plants. But when I was actually paying attention to seasonal changes of plants and those minute changes, I was like, oh, plants do have personality too, right? And you can notice these things, and we can look at, okay, this is when the mesquite's leafing out. What can we expect with our Lucy's warblers? So as professionals, getting to know not just, these trees are going to start leafing out around March, or they're going to start leafing out around April, but being able to notice, wait, they are leafing out earlier or later than usual. I've been tracking saguaros here in Tucson, right? We have those cartoon cactuses that people are mostly familiar with, right? They're called saguaros. Ours have been flowering later than usual this year, and it's been really weird. Like, they should have been flowering by now, and I've seen one saguaro flower bud right now. So just being able to notice that, once again, helps. Great things you can put on your resume, great things that you can use for training, and being able to engage with your volunteers, but also just helping you connect with your landscape. And you're all in forestry because you love plants already, right? Being able to enhance those relationships. And also, man, planning for climate change, right? In Mohonk Lake, they've been studying spring phenology observations for 8 decades, right? The USA National Phenology Network has been around for about 15 years. But people have been documenting for a long, long time the seasonal changes of plants and animals, right? And so you can actually look at historical data of leaf out, or when, oh, do you guys have the frogs? I think some of you guys have the frogs, are they peepers? I don't remember. Our frogs are spadefoot toads, but I think in the East Coast, there's like frogs that you guys look forward to, right? When they start croaking, man, way back in the 1700s, people were spring peepers. It is spring peepers. All right, I've done a few East Coast talks now, and people talk about spring peepers. Good. And I've never heard one, but one day I'm going to, because you guys talk about them a lot. But when those spring peepers started peeping, people have been documenting that for a long, long time, and we can actually look at historical records and see how climate change has really shifted phenology. All right, and Henry David Thoreau, right? Once again, very Western perspective, like putting that out there. Oh, you haven't been, spring peepers. Okay, tangent, because I'm talking about frogs right now. So you guys have your spring peepers. I don't know much about their biology, but we have the spadefoot toads here in Arizona. And when you think about the desert, you do not think about frogs, you do not think about toads, right? Because those are amphibians. We have these crazy spadefoot toads that even when it's 115 degrees for like several weeks, they're like buried in the sand in the desert, and they go into like a stasis, and they give themselves like a little goo around them, and when the monsoons hit, they like literally pop out of the ground and start like croaking. That's one of the reasons why monsoons get exciting, and then we have to drive really carefully because then they get out into the roads. But anyway, Thoreau's time, Walden Pond. Since Thoreau's time at Walden Pond, the mean annual temperature has been about 2.4 degrees centigrade higher. Plants have been flowering about 7 days earlier. About 27 species at Walden Pond have disappeared, and 36% more have been in major declines. So being able to say like, yep, climate change is happening. How are our plants shifting with this? How are the animals shifting through this? Having that long-term data is so important to be able to make models for what's going to happen in the future, and to be able to inform decisions on what plants do we want to plant, how do we want to adjust with climate change as well. How do we want to make habitat for our spring peepers? And it supports relevant research. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about Nature's Notebook here in a moment, of like, how do we get this phenology data, right? Because we have like only about a half a dozen of us here working in Tucson at the USA National Phenology Network. We can't go on the ground looking at these seasonal changes across the country. It's volunteers who are doing this. And all that data, once again, is collected and freely available. So you guys can go to our website right now. You can actually download every record that's been collected with Nature's Notebook. There's over 30 million records. It takes a really long time. We have filters so you can actually see what you're looking for. But often we will just get pings that a paper was published using data collected with Nature's Notebook, because people are curious about what's going on with climate change, and people want to look at what data is available out there, what can be used. But even if you have questions that can be answered with phenology data, red maples, if you study red maples, people have been collecting red maple data with Nature's Notebook for a long time. There's a lot of data out there available. So you can actually use that data for your research. And there's been I believe, over 160 peer-reviewed papers published with people using either our models for like insect emergence, or using the data directly collected through Nature's Notebook. And I talk about the science, right? My background is in education. Personally, we do actually, on our team, we have just amazing people who do amazing research, and they do all the statistical analyses with R. I really like doing the environmental education because a lot of times people ask, oh, phenology, what do you do? I teach people how to go outside and look at plants, right? And they're like, okay, like you teach people how to go outside and look at plants. But oh my gosh, it is relaxing and meditative to sometimes just go outside, look closely at plants, and pay attention to what are the plants doing. Because when I pause, we have milkweed that I personally look at every week, and I look for monarch caterpillars. And before I go into my office, every Monday is when my office days are, I go to the milkweed and I record, what are the flowers doing? What are the fruits doing? Are there monarch caterpillars? I found four monarch pupae this week. I found about 5 caterpillars this week, and I had 2 adult monarchs, and they were both males. If you've never seen butterflies fighting with each other, it's really funny because they were like both fighting over that territory. It like looks, it's like, oh, beautiful butterflies flying, but you know what they're actually doing. But it's wonderful because even when I'm stopping and looking at the milkweeds, sometimes people, I'm on the university, sometimes students ask, what are you actually looking at here? And being able to show them, look, here's when this is flowering. This is actually a milkweed plant. This is for those monarch butterflies. Monarch butterflies are kind of the pandas of the butterfly world, right? If you can get people engaged with monarchs, everyone knows what a monarch is, but you can get them engaged in all those other really important butterflies that you guys are paying attention to as well. But being able to engage with people and getting them to stop and look and connect with nature is just very rewarding and relaxing. So the USA National Phenology Network, that's the organization that I work for. The primary goals are to like being able to observe phenological events, understand how plants, animals, and landscapers respond to climate change, or landscapes, excuse me. Creating a standardized data set to support research and decision making, right? Because it's one thing to be like, yes, this is what a leaf looks like. But when you're engaging the public and you're bringing in volunteers and you're trying to teach people who have never looked at plants before how to look at plants, it's one thing for me to say, do you see leaves on your tree? But when you're actually looking at them, are you seeing leaves on your tree or not, right? So we have standardized protocols so that when people are getting trained on how to pay attention to plants and animals, what is the seed, what is a flower, what is a fruit, they have the ways to do that. Oh, I'm talking, oh no, it's 9:40. I need to go a little quicker, my bad. I was getting really excited and going on some tangents. So I'll go a little bit quicker. But how do we document phenology again? Paying attention to those life stages and those different seasonal life changes of plants and animals, right? With animal activity, right? Feeding, migrating, reproduction, right? If you actually see copulation or egg laying or nest building, right? And then development, right? When bird eggs hatch or when caterpillars switch to pupa. These are all documentable, observable phases, right? I can go to those milkweed and say, yes, I see a monarch egg, or yes, I see a monarch caterpillar, or yes, I see a monarch laying eggs, right? With plants, what we're able to observe, right? Leafing, when plants first break leaf buds, when they first go up through the mulch, when they're flowering, right? Think about animal reproduction, right? Plant reproduction is like their own plant reproduction, but we all love our flowers, but man, those are plant reproductive structures, right? And the same things for fruit, right? Reproduction happened, right? The bird laid the eggs, it's incubating the eggs. The eggs in the plants got fertilized, they're growing into fruits, and then those fruits ripen so that the seeds can be distributed. But all these are observable events that you can log and record. So our citizen science program through the National Phenology Network is called Nature's Notebook. I've mentioned it a few times. We do have an app if you want to. You can use the QR code right now if you want to download the app and and create an account. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit about how data is collected through Nature's Notebook, how you can collect data through Nature's Notebook, and how you can engage your community in collecting data with Nature's Notebook. I won't take a lot of time going through the app process right now, but at least if you have the app on your phone, if you want to create an account, I'll kind of walk you through how it works so that you can get started in your own backyard or maybe in your nature center or even that, that weird milkweed outside your office. Our monarch's actually coming to it. With Nature's Notebook, it's very site-based, right? So a lot of you may be familiar with iNaturalist. You can put in a yes in the chat right now. I'm going to go back to the chat because I've been talking a lot now. I started rambling, right? So go in the chat. If you've been familiar with iNaturalist, put in the chat, yes, I've heard of iNaturalist. If no, I'm not from iNaturalist, but if you ever are curious, I will actually tell you about iNaturalist because it's actually a really, really awesome. Yes, okay, right? iNaturalist is such a great getting people to know what plant. Yes, okay, man, I like this audience because a lot of times people are like, no, I have not heard of iNaturalist. Yes, iNaturalist is awesome, right? And you can look at phenology with iNaturalist, right? You can put in, did I see leaves on the plant or flowers or fruits, right? With Nature's Notebook, it's works a little differently, right? With iNaturalist, you can take the picture, you put in the data, this is the species that we found, here's what it was doing. But with Nature's Notebook is essentially you're creating a site, and you can think of a site like a research site or like my backyard is my site, right? But it's a site, it's a place where you're going where you're actually going to make repeated observations, right? With iNaturalist, you're going, you're like, oh, here I saw this bug and here I saw this flower, right? With Nature's Notebook, let's say you've got your red maple tree. I'm going to say, okay, this is my site, this is my backyard, this is my red maple tree. And I'm going to go back to it every week or every couple weeks, and I'm going to document what I'm seeing on my red maple tree. And with Nature's Notebook, you can create individual sites where it's just me in my backyard, because me in my backyard, I don't want y'all collecting data in my backyard because that gets a little sketchy, right? But if you're at a nature center or if you're at a school or an arboreta, you can create a local phenology program where as a local phenology leader, you can say, okay, here's our arboretum. We're trying to look at the phenology of these 5 red maples here. You can bring in your docents or volunteers or members of the public, and you can train them so that they can come back week after week and record those seasonal changes. And so once you have your Nature's Notebook, you have an account, you're going to be putting those individual plants, right? So with iNaturalist, for example, right, you go to a plant, you're recording it, but let's say if I go to my red maple and I say, okay, I saw my red maple, I saw leaves on my red maple, you go back to that red maple, right? It's still its own individual unique observations. With Nature's Notebook, you're putting in your site, you're putting in your plants, and the data is connected to this is the same plant through time. Because plants are all individuals, right? Here in Tucson, we've got mesquite trees doing all sorts of wonky stuff this year, and saguaros doing all sorts of wonky stuff this year, right? So it's important because one individual saguaro next to another individual saguaro, one's got flower buds and the other isn't. So you're accounting for that individual variation, and you're accounting for how each individual is changing through time. So then you're getting all those data points and those changes through times, and you're being consistent with the same plants through time. And if you're doing a local phenology program, let's say you're bringing in people to your arboreta, you can always start with 5 plants, and then you're like, hey, I'm getting a lot of community involvement. Say, we're going to add 5 more trees that people can document, right? But when you have these people all across the United States, right, who are all watching their individual trees through time, you get that bigger picture and that larger sample size of, is my change leafing out? Is my tree leafing out earlier or later than usual this year? And you can also document animals. I like to put the bluebirds, I think, I don't remember if these are the eastern or western bluebirds, I think have the brown on the back. I think these are eastern bluebirds, right? But let's say you're involving the public and you want them to monitor bluebird phenology, and you've got 5 bluebird nest boxes out, right? And you want to see when they're nesting and when they're arriving, right? You can have your volunteers watch those bluebird nests for however time, right? Do you see nest building? Yes or no? Do you see individuals? Are they incubating? Are they laying eggs, right? And even if you don't have nest boxes, right? Maybe you still want to see when those birds are arriving and when they're building nests. You're not going to get the same bluebird necessarily through time, right? But you're still getting the presence or absence of those animals through time. So you can still be recording at my site, right? At these trees, this is what I'm recording what the animals are doing. And the way that you collect data with Nature's Notebook and the way the phenology data, right? Even if you're not collecting data with Nature's Notebook, even if you're going to usanpn.org and you're like, great, I want to download some data. I just want to use the data. I don't necessarily want to collect the data, which is totally fine. The way the data is collected is basically you go out every week to your tree. I'm going to do, I don't know if this is a red maple or not. You guys, I do mesquites and I do saguaros and desert plants, right? But I go out to my maple tree, right? Do I see leaves on my maple tree? Yes or no? Do I see flowers on my maple tree? Yes or no? And do I see fruits? Yes or no? And when I'm going back to that same tree through time, you're able to document this week I did see leaves. This next week I did see leaves. Now I'm seeing the leaves color changes. So when you're able to document that presence or absence of those different phenophases, you're able to say, all right, last week I went out there and there were no leaves. This week I went out there and there's breaking leaf buds. That's tied to the climate data. So now we can say this is when they actually started leafing out. Because like, again, with iNaturalist, awesome program. This is like, it's just the difference between the programs, right? With iNaturalist, you're saying like, look, there's leaves, but you can't say if on that tree, if there were leaves on that tree last week, right? So now you're saying last week on my tree, no leaves. This week I do have trees. And we'll do, oh my gosh, I ran out of time, right? But still, I'm going to do a little bit of interaction with you guys. So we do have specific protocols because you guys are arborists, so you might do really good on this, right? But without seeing the protocols, I'm going to show you what our actual like definition of what a leaf would be and why protocols are important, right? But if I'm like, okay, I'm going to do phenology and my trees have been dormant and I'm going to go, see what's on my tree this week, and you go on your tree this week and you say, and you see this, right? If you went out, would you count this as being a breaking leaf bud? Or would you count this as a leaf, right? And this is important when you're thinking about phenology and you're thinking about the protocols and when you're thinking about when phenophases are appearing, it can be vague. And this is going to be why protocols are important, right? So would you guys call this, and you can go in the chat. I would say you're either seeing leaves or you're seeing breaking leaf buds right now. What would you guys call this? Just based on, you haven't heard about phenology, you haven't heard of Nature's Notebook. What on earth is this? All right, good. I'm seeing breaking leaf buds. I'm seeing leaf. I'm glad that no one's like, ha, you tried to trick me. It was a flower bud, right? Yeah, but we know it's not a flower bud. And I'm seeing some, all right, I would call it leaves, right? Some of you guys are sleeping. I have been talking a lot, right? Breaking leaf buds or leaves. And don't worry, I'm not going to judge you because I'm going to forget your names. And I don't even know where you're from anymore. Except I know one of you is from Kent, Washington. Yay, there we go. More breaking leaf. I know some of you are going to be wrong, right? None of us like to be wrong. But this is why I love Nature's Notebook. It's okay to be wrong because this, right? I go out there, I'm like, yeah, I know what a leaf is, me, bird person. And I went out there and, oh, I don't know what a leaf is. I need to look at this again. All right, we've got a good mix of breaking leaf buds and leaves. So this, whoops, I'm going back up to the screen. For this one, I'm going to give you the definition now, right? This is why we have protocols for all the plants and animals in Nature's Notebook. So a breaking leaf bud is going to be defined as one or more breaking leaf buds are visible, and it's breaking once a green leaf tip is visible at the end of the bud, but before the first leaf from the bud has unfolded to expose the leaf base, right? So if you've got volunteers out there like, I don't know if this is a leaf or a breaking leaf bud, we're going to do this again. So if you see this, is a green leaf tip visible? And is that base, right? The petiole, where the leaf actually attaches to the stem, is that petiole visible? Because if the petiole, if that attachment is visible, it's a leaf. If you just see the bud tip where you don't see the attachment, then it's a breaking leaf bud. So once again, I have no idea what your guys' answers were. I'm not paying that close of attention. But what would you guys call this then, knowing what the actual protocol is? If you can see that little stem attachment, it's a leaf. If you can't see that stem attachment, it's a breaking leaf bud. So if all you can see is a little tip, breaking leaf bud. If you can see, I think of it as like the wrist, right? If you can see the wrist of the wrist, it's a leaf. Oh, I have to go back. And I'm seeing much more confident leaves now. Yes. Oh, and it's live and folded leaf once you consider the entire length is emerged. But yep, you can see that. So it would not be a breaking leaf bud, but it would be a leaf. And with that, with Nature's Notebook also, as you're learning phenology, and if you're using the data, you're like, wait, what if, right, we have all these people across the United States who are collecting these data. How do I know that they're actually like collecting good data? They also have a question mark option, right? And that's what I love about it too, is you get that opportunity to learn, right? You're like, oh, I know what a leaf is. I'm an arborist person. You're like, wait, if I'm collecting data, what defines a leaf? It gives you that chance to have a question mark of, I'm not sure. You go back the next week. Oh, I understand now more of what a petiole is or what that attachment is. You can go back and change the data. But oh man, what I think I love about Phenology and Nature's Notebook is that opportunity to say, I have no idea what a leaf actually is, and to be able to learn it and collect those data. So with that, we're going to do one more. Is this a breaking leaf? What would you call this? Would you call this a breaking leaf bud or a leaf, right? You go to your maple next door, right? I went to one maple. Okay, this is leaves. What would you? I love it. This is my favorite part of this talk because I go from everyone being super awkward of not knowing if they're right or wrong, and now I'm getting breaking leaf bud. Yeah, like I like to see that go down. Now what, right? But we have training materials available if you want to participate. We have training materials that you can use for your volunteers so that your volunteers are all a lot more confident. Oh, I know what a, oh, look at, oh man, all y'all. I am very cognizant of the time. Breaking leaf buds. So yep, I would say yes, breaking leaf buds, but I don't see that wrist. So I would say no for leaves, right? But next week, if I go out next week, this tree is probably going to look a lot more like this. And then I would say no, and then that's what you're documenting, right? We captured when the leaf buds were breaking, and now we are seeing the leaves growing. And you get increasing leaf size, you get leaves changing colors, but you're able to document all of that. All right, for this one, we'll do one more real quick, and then I'll skip to the end, and I'll give you guys time for questions, and I'll also hang around a little bit if people have time for that. I have time for that. But what would you say for this, right? I have a red maple. I'm like, okay, right, you went to your third red maple tree, right? And you've third individual, and you see this, right? Go ahead and type in there. What would you say yes or no to, right? Would you see breaking leaf buds? Lee, just list out all the different things that you would see here. Do you see breaking leaf buds? Leaves? If you don't see leaves, for example, don't put on leaves. Do you see open flowers, right? Flower buds closed up, no nectar available, right? Open flowers, nectar available, or pollen is coming out with open flowers, right? So you can document the difference. Open flowers, flowers. Fruits, right? Is there food available for the squirrels? Ripe fruits, right? Are those seeds being dispersed? All right, and here I had yes, I do see breaking leaf buds. No, I don't see leaves. Yes, I do see flowers. I also see open flowers because I see pistils and stamens. However, I don't see fruits and I don't see ripe fruits. Right? Hey, yeah, breaking leaf buds, open flowers. Yep, exactly, right? And you can say yes for flowers. Yes, I do see flowers, and yes, those flowers are open because you can also time that. This is when there were flower buds. This is when the flowers were open. This is when there's not flowers anymore. Oh my gosh, and I don't have time to do every single phenophase, but then you come into this nonsense, or your volunteers come to this nonsense, and they're like, I have no idea what I'm seeing here. A lot of you guys probably actually do know what you're seeing here, right? It's really good, but once again, as you keep going back, now we're seeing leaves, right? And now we don't see flowers anymore, but we're starting to see fruits. So you're going back to those trees week after week, and you're documenting how they're changing through time. Oh, but once again, it's okay if you're not sure. You can go back. That's where we're getting those learning opportunities. That's why we're learning about phenology. For more training, right? This is me in my hour that I took a little too long because I got a little bit more into like how you can use this for arborists. But we have observer certification course, frequently asked questions. We have primers of like botanies and phenophases, and we have all sorts of resources for learning these different things. So you're not like, yeah, I did a 1 hour webinar and now I'm an expert in phenology. We have additional resources if you want to learn more. We also have research campaigns, right? You're like, is anyone actually caring about the research I'm doing? Well, you care about the research you're doing. So whatever trees you need to document is what you need to document. But sometimes people are like, I just want to participate in a research project. we have data collection campaigns that researchers are looking for eastern oak species, nectar connector species, or nectar availability for monarchs. Here in Tucson, we're looking at those saguaros when nectar is available for bats. So there's all sorts of campaigns that you can join. You can even participate in like, hey, yeah, I want to learn more about those invasive insects and document that to help those models. You can do that as well. All right, I think they are called samaras. I think you're right. With that, thank you guys very much. I will stick around. I can stick around. You can also reach out to me if you have questions. Let me know, say, hey, I heard you at the webinar, Samantha@usanpn.org. I love answering your guys' questions and helping you get started and anything that you would need help with. But thank you for having me here. It was a pleasure talking with you guys.
Thank you, Samantha. That was a delightful presentation and such a cool project. And I'm thinking about the network of Arboreta that we certify across the state, and a lot of individuals on this call who maintain Arboreta across Tennessee. And I'm thinking about their volunteers and like what a cool app and data collection project that they can get involved with. So thank you. Katie, did we have any questions that have come through here in the last few minutes?
So none in the chat. I do have a couple that people submitted before the webinar. If we have time to go through that. Samantha, the two questions. The first one is, how do plants and animals adapt to roller coaster seasonal changes that are not as defined as they used to be back in the day?
So once again, just full disclosure, right? I am volunteer engagement coordinator. I do a lot of education, but I don't look at the data specifically as much as other members of my team do. But I will say there, when you're looking at one of the reasons why phenology is important, and especially with those roller coaster climates, right? Think about people who manage orchards, right? And if your spring is coming earlier than usual, right? We say spring is coming earlier than usual. The growing degree days are happening earlier than usual. The Earth's tilt isn't what's changing, right? So that's when you get those frosts that can be super detrimental to frost. The plants are like, oh, hey, it's safe to flower, right? You get those apple blossoms, but it is still winter. You get those frosts, and that can destroy crops. So how they're adapting, it just depends. Some people are looking at the difference between like how are native I talked a lot. How do native versus invasive species adapt, right? And outcompete each other, right? In some cases, if you have invasive species that leaf out earlier than the natives, it prevents sunlight from getting to the little native species, right? So I don't have a ton of specific examples, but I do have broad examples. Another is what we call phenological mismatches, and this has been well documented as well. And a phenological mismatch is when, let's do the birds and the caterpillars, right? Birds migrate north, right? But they don't want caterpillars when they're laying their eggs. They want caterpillars when their young are eating. So when the birds migrate north, they lay their eggs, they incubate their eggs, they're adapted for raising young when there's caterpillars. If the leaves leaf out earlier, the caterpillars come out earlier, babies starve. And that's been documented as well. So phenological mismatches is what a lot of people look at too, and how plants and animals adapt to that. If that answers the question.
We just got this, I think it's a question in the chat, about having a little tab for late freezes and spring snow. And he was wondering if that could be added.
So we don't quite have the capacity to add that, but what we do have is if you go to usanpn.org, you can actually go to our data visualizations, and we do have climate data that's tied to the phenology data, and you can actually look at temperature changes. If you follow us on Instagram, we do our spring updates where we actually look at the growing degree days, and like we did a little Groundhog Day thing, right? What does Phil the Groundhog see versus what's actually going on with growing degree days and when plants are leafing out. So we couldn't quite add like this was a late freeze, right? But what you can look at is you can look at the data that people have collected, and you can look at the correlation between evening or daytime temperatures, rainfall, and the plant phenology that people have recorded. Oh, thank you. You guys are saying a lot of nice things. I appreciate that.
Well, we're a minute past the hour, so I don't want to use up anyone else's time. But Samantha, thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed this. Thanks for providing your email address there for us to reach out if you have any questions or want to get involved. And then for everyone who's still on, as a reminder, we host these webinars every single month. The next one is going to be May 16th. We have Sarah Wells, who's an urban forestry coordinator with Nashville Metro Water Services, presenting on the recent urban tree canopy assessment. And so all looking forward to that, and we hope to see you there.